The following is a hockey podcast out of Vancouver and Surrey, British Columbia. It'll only consist of a lot of puck talk and even more BS, or in actual words, banter and satire. Enjoy, and as always, go Canucks go.
All right, there are two people in Canucks Nation that are having a pretty rough day today, okay? Kyle Bowen out with the flu. Andrei Kuzmenko out of the lineup. Who's having the tougher day? I'm going to tell you next here on Locked On Canucks.
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Locked On Canucks. My name is Trevor Beggs, co-host here of Locked On Canucks, and also a part-time credentialed media member for Daily Hive Vancouver. Before we dive into today's episode, I got to thank you for tuning in to Locked On Canucks. It's your team every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. If you haven't done so already, go make sure you subscribe or follow us for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. And hey, you might be subscribing for free, but you're helping me feed my family, baby, helping me put some stuff in the stocking for my family. Speaking of which, I also got to shout out Gametime today. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Coming up on today's episode of Locked On Canucks, we got to talk about it again because it is still a pretty big story in this market. Anytime a player making $5.5 million gets scratched, it's a story. That's happening again today for your Vancouver Canucks. Talkit has just recently reported with media down in Nashville that Kuzmenko is going to sit tonight for your Vancouver Canucks. It's the fourth time he's been healthy scratched this season. And I kind of want to ask the question, are the Canucks being unfair to Andrei Kuzmenko at this point? Because I do think it's a debate. It's not just, oh, this guy's not playing well, get him out of the lineup. I think when you're scratching him for the likes of Nils Amon, Phil DiGiuseppe, guys who, have a role in this team but aren't necessarily letting the world on fire, it starts to become a bit of a debate. So I'm going to touch on Kuzmenko in segment one. Segment two, want to talk about Nikita Zadorov because Rick Dhaliwal of Czech TV reporting that this guy wants to be a Vancouver Canuck until the age of 78. That's what he said, seriously. But more on that in segment two. And then finally, in the final segment of the show, we'll shout out the Cam Neely, former Canuck of the week. Hell, I wonder if Andrei Kuzmenko is going to be a former Canuck of the week at some point. It does feel like when you think about the relationship between Rick Tocchet and Andrei Kuzmenko and the way Rick Tocchet speaks about Andrei Kuzmenko in the media, it does not feel like a guy in Rick Tocchet trying to give Kuzmenko a reset or trying to pump his tires. This seems like a guy who is, in Rick Tocchet, who is fed up with Kuzmenko, not back-checking, not playing defense. And lo and behold, we saw it again in Chicago on Sunday. Kuzmenko barely played in the second half of the game, 2 shifts in the entire third period. And interestingly enough, Nils Höglander found himself in the same boat. Again, Nils Höglander has had his ups and downs defensively like Kuzmenko, but I think Höglander has showed enough hustle and grind, and especially he's willing to battle on the boards that Kuzmenko just hasn't shown. But at the end of the day, you look at Andrei Kuzmenko, and he might not be scoring goals at the same rate, and he's shooting a little less right now too, but the guy's still putting up some points, okay? Like, I'm just looking at his even strength points right now through 25 games. The guy has 2.19 points per 60. That's still a first-line scoring rate, okay? He's got 11 points at even strength in 29 games. Most of those are primary points too, okay? He's got 4 goals, 4 primary assists. So 8 of his 11 points at even strength have been primary points, okay? And I think that's the important thing with Andrei Kuzmenko is that we kind of get lost in the hoopla of this guy's playing further down the lineup. And, it's hard for him to contribute in a fourth line role, although, hey, he has scored a couple goals recently, right? But obviously for Rick Tocchet, it's not all about the goals. And I think to back Tocchet up to some extent here, you can afford to scratch a guy like Kuzmenko when you lead the league in goals. Everydayers know. Kyle and I have mentioned it already. But I get you just don't need a guy like Kuzmenko in your lineup when the guy, has 6 goals in the season, which is far below what we expected from him. And the Canucks still lead the league in goals. But I still think the Canucks are being a little unfair to Andrei Kuzmenko here. It's like Maybe it's the media. Maybe it's the big old bad media like Beggsy blowing things out of proportion. But Kuzmenko hasn't played that badly. It's the inconsistency, I think, is what's driving talk at nuts here. But it's not like you watch every game and go, oh my God, what is Kuzmenko doing with the puck here? He's not like the Tyler Myers of the Vancouver Canucks forwards. I think it's just he's been too quiet. But again, this guy spent almost his entire career in the KHL. His game is not going to be grinding and battling and forechecking in the corners. And I honestly think there's a strong argument to be made that Andrei Kuzmenko should just be back with Elias Pettersson. I looked at the numbers for Pettersson and Kuzmenko both this season and last season as well. And the numbers show that Pettersson and Kuzmenko both play better together. And they don't play as well apart. I'll show you like the rough numbers, okay? Call me the fancy stats guy. The rough numbers, and it was the same for this season and last season, were expected goals together about 53% for Kuzmenko and Pettersson when they were on the ice together. Separate, Kuzmenko dropped to about 45%. Pettersson was at 46% expected goals. So again, this is a forward duo that plays better together. And I don't think, credit to Sam Lafferty. He looked fine there for a time, but now they're trying Pius Suter there. It just feels like they're unnecessarily punishing Kuzmenko when this team is probably better with Kuzmenko playing on the top line with Pettersson and Mikheyev. Again, to talk his defense, you can teach this guy a lesson early in the season because, again, the Canucks have built this big lead. They're already scoring goals. It's like, is Kuzmenko going to be a factor? Is he going to be trusted come playoff time? But I think come playoff time, the goals are harder to come by. And I know Kuzmenko's not scoring right now, but he is on an island. I mean, he's one of the most talented players on the Canucks roster, bar none. We've seen what this guy can do on the ice. Most of the games I watched live last season, it was Elias Pettersson and Andrei Kuzmenko who impressed me the most. Quinn Hughes in the past has been the most impressive guy out there, but last season it was Pettersson and Kuzmenko. On a lot of nights under Boudreau where the Canucks looked flat, disinterested, discombobulated, Pettersson and Kuzmenko were the show. The Kuzmenko show, okay? That was not that long ago. Again, always pretty jarring when a guy of Kuzmenko's stature is sitting in the press box. I don't think he necessarily deserves to be there. And I do wonder where this goes with Andrei Kuzmenko. This is not the time to trade him. I mean, I don't think anyone's offering some massive package for Andrei Kuzmenko. So, again, I do wonder where these healthy scratches go. Like, I don't think it's tenable to just keep putting this guy on the fourth line, to keep scratching him. He's making $5.5 million for your Vancouver Canucks. Your nearly capped out Vancouver Canucks, who we're going to get into in segment 2. They have a few contracts upcoming next season that's going to eat into the books. A few guys looking for raises. And again, if this relationship with Andrei Kuzmenko doesn't work out, you could ship him out of town, sure. But it's this whole conversation we had last year when when guys like Garland, guys like Besser were in the rumor mill. You're really going to go trade these guys for pennies on the dollar? This doesn't seem like what this management group wants to do. They did cut ties with a guy like Curtis Lazar, who wasn't performing well. But that was a different story. We're talking about $1 million Curtis Lazar versus former 39 goal scorer Andrei Kuzmenko. I mean, like, if Kuzmenko was a few months younger, this guy would have won the Calder last season, right? And then this would be an even bigger story than it already is. But of course, crazy fans out here in Vancouver. Hopefully some crazy fans tuning in to Locked On Canucks. And we got to talk about these things, man. Because Andrei Kuzmenko should be an important player for this team. Let me know in the comments what you think, whether you're live with us on YouTube, whether you want to interact with us on Twitter or Spotify. Let us know. Do you think Andrei Kuzmenko is being unjustly criticized by the Vancouver Canucks? Or does he deserve to keep riding the pine here? Because I think this is getting to a point where you got to try to make it work with Kuzmenko. He's not playing that poorly. He's not burning the team that badly. He's squeezing the stick a bit for sure. But it's not like we're seeing some horrid version of Andrei Kuzmenko out there right now for your Vancouver Canucks. Coming up on the other side, I want to talk about the Nikita Zadorov potential extension. Look, this guy just came to Vancouver 3 weeks ago. We're already talking about extending the guy. But I mean, he's obviously been a fit here Obviously, Rick Tocchet likes him, and I think he's starting to endear himself to fans too, okay? But before we do that, okay, I got to shout out FanDuel, baby. All right. The NFL season is coming to a close here, but it's not too late to get in on the action with FanDuel, okay? Because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so damn easy to use, okay? There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, overs, unders, and more. And you know what? I said it for about 3 ad reads on this show. The Seattle Seahawks, baby, okay? They were underdogs, 3.5-point underdogs, the Philadelphia Eagles. And I said, call me crazy, call me delusional, but I think the Seahawks are going to win straight up. And guess what? Drew Lock delivered, baby. We talked about misfits on yesterday's episode of Locked On Canucks. Shout out to the everydayers. They know misfits like Connor Garland. I even called it the misfit line potentially with Joshua, Garland, and Bluger. Drew Lock is definitely a misfit, and he still got it done yesterday for your Vancouver, or for the Seattle Seahawks, okay? Okay? Just like the third line's getting it done for your Vancouver Canucks. So whether you're betting on NFL, NHL, make sure you go to FanDuel.com/LockedOn to enjoy the NFL season and the NHL season. And FanDuel, guess what? They're an official partner of the NFL. All right. Welcome back to Locked On Canucks. My name is Trevor Beggs, the co-host of Locked On Canucks. Missing Kyle Bowen today, okay? And I'm just trying to figure this all out, man, because Kyle is he's the unsung hero of Locked On Canucks. I'm telling you, the Locked On Canucks, your team every day. It does not happen without Kyle Bowen. If I had to do this every day, there's no way it's happening, okay? But I'm just here trying to figure it out. Again, Kyle makes the beautiful thumbnails, does all the production on the show. The guy's an absolute rock star, okay? A couple more things on Kuzmenko before we get to Nikita Zadorov. Shout out to Callum. Callum, did I pronounce that correctly, Callum? The pride of Scotland. Callum says, Kuzmenko gets over $5 million a season and can afford an enormous pillow to cry on and lace hankies. Holy. He's got to work harder and play a team game to the airlock with him. Okay, so Callum, I get it. Not on the Andrei Kuzmenko bandwagon. I do believe Callum's hoping for some Archdeep Bains and Vasily Podkolzin in Vancouver. And, you know, Rick Tocchet said as much, right? After Anthony Beauvillier got traded, that they have guys in Abbotsford pushing for jobs. And we talked about it earlier on Locked On Canucks. You know, RC Bains and Vasily Podkolzin haven't been recalled yet, but they're certainly part of the long-term plans. And I think with those two players in particular, the organization wants them to keep cooking down there. Keep cooking, keep lighting it up. And when the Canucks basically have no choice but to call them up, I think that's when you're going to see them. In the meantime, you might see guys like Linus Karlsson. I'm personally hoping for a Tristan Nielsen appearance with the Vancouver Canucks. So Alex Burrows light. But I think with Bains and Podkolzin, again, there could be opportunity if Kuzmenko goes out the door, but I think that's incredibly unlikely for your Vancouver Canucks. What's more likely? Andrei Kuzmenko being traded by the Canucks or Nikita Zadorov signing an extension? I think Zadorov signing an extension is probably more likely, but again, the recent reports from Rick Dollywall are that this guy wants a long-term deal. Rick Dollywall said it on Donnie and Dolly this morning that a 4-year deal would not be enough to get Nikita Zadorov, and that he is seeking a 6-year deal. And I'm not going to lie, that kind of scares me, man. The Canucks have an offseason coming up here where they got to sign Andrei Kuzmenko. They got to sign Elias Pettersson, right? This guy's going to get a fat raise, probably a $4 million raise, like let's say ballpark, 7.35 to 11-ish. Phil Hronek is probably going to get a $3 million raise as well. I know the cap's going up. Zadorov, Ian Cole. The Canucks basically have no one signed on their defense. It's Quinn Hughes and Noah Juleson and no one else. So it's going to be really interesting to see what they do. But Nikita Zadorov on a 6-year deal, it scares me, man. It scares me a bit. I like Zadorov, don't get me wrong. But there's a bit of a reason why this guy's bounced around organizations, okay? And part of it has been by his own design. He's requested trades on a couple of occasions, found himself in some bad situations. He was seeing his playing time slip in Colorado, went to Chicago where that was a bad situation, had some success in Calgary and other teams going downhill a bit. So I don't want to say like he's bounced around because he's been bad, but there's a bit of an erratic nature to Nikita Zadorov's game, right? Pinching on the big hits, taking penalties. And we've already kind of seen that in his early days in Vancouver. There's a lot to like, right? The physicality, the fact that he stuck up for Pettersson. Kyle mentioned on the show yesterday, I thought that was huge that Nikita Zadorov stood up for Pettersson. Again, I don't care if it's a clean hit. You're going after my boy, you got to pay. And that's the mentality that Nikita Zadorov and the Canucks should have. But a 6-year deal, and this guy's probably going to command a raise on the about $3.5 million he's making right now. Like, are we talking a 6-year deal with $4 million a season? If the Canucks are dishing out that kind of money to Zadorov, I want to be pretty damn sure that this guy's a top 4 defenseman. And if he has $4 million a bargain, right? Like, I think with the cap going up, like a high-end bottom pairing defenseman might be $4 million. But again, 6 years to Nikita Zadorov, a guy who's already logged 500 NHL games. He's already got some wear and tear on his body. I mean, the guy's a freaking animal. For those who don't know, Nikita Zadorov, I think it was the 2017-18 season, played 30 games with a torn shoulder. And that same year, he led the league in hits. So this is a guy you want on your hockey team. And I think part of signing him is easier to stomach if Tyler Myers walks out the door. I know they like their range and size on that pairing, but I personally have seen enough of Tyler Myers in Vancouver. I think there are better options out there in terms of right shot defensemen. I know Myers could potentially pull a Brandon Sutter and come back here. I'm actually kind of curious what fans think. Drop a comment if you're watching live. Interact with me on YouTube or on Twitter, YouTube, Spotify. Do you want to see Tyler Myers back on a $1 million deal? Because that Zadorov-Myers pairing has had some success. Also, that they've had some moments of looking pretty erratic out there too. Like, I know Tyler Myers' last couple of games has been great. You look at hockey stat cards, Tyler Myers had the best game score of any player in that Chicago Blackhawks Vancouver Canucks game. But man, oh man, is he still make some bad decisions with the puck sometimes. And Zadorov's done the same. Look, I was at that Devils game where Zadorov coughing up right in front of the net. Demko ended up bailing him out. Again, I think Zadorov is definitely worth a few $million per season, but I'd be hesitant about a 6-year deal. Again, maybe there's trauma on my part. Maybe there's trauma from too many 6-year deals gone wrong in this market. Hell, even 4-year deals to kind of marginal role players. But I think I'm going to wait and see more with Nikita Zadorov. Again, the Jim Benning era, they handed out contracts way too early. I think with Zadorov, you can afford to wait until the end of the season. I know Dollywall, he's got Dan Milstein in his ear. He's making the argument that, you know, you got to lock this guy up early because if Zadorov gets to free agency, he's going to be one of the youngest defensemen in the market, 28 years old. He could probably command maybe even $5 million a season if he continues to play well for the Vancouver Canucks. I just think that's the number you probably walk away from, although he is a unique player. So, again, curious what you think. Again, interact with us. Let us know how you feel about Nikita Zadorov. On the final segment of the show, I'm going to shout out the Cam Neely, former Canuck of the Week. But before I do that, I got to shout out Gametime, baby. Have you ever been stressed out by buying tickets at the last minute? Because you know me, I'm a big last minute deals guy. And I found that the best place for killer deals at the last minute is Gametime. Gametime, you know, they got my back, baby. I get these emails from Nicole at Gametime, and she's always teasing me with concerts and events this week in my area. Not only are those weekly emails a tease, but Gametime also offers me flash deals on last-minute tickets. What's even better than that is that they have a lowest price guarantee along with event protection cancellation. And guess what else? Gametime is saving Christmas, baby, because I have not done my Christmas shopping yet. So I need to get some Canucks tickets, maybe some Abbotsford Canucks tickets, some concert tickets for the stocking. And I'm going to make sure I do that all with Gametime. So make sure you snag the tickets without the stress with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right. You're back here on Locked On Canucks. My name is Trevor Beggs, here without Kyle Bowen today. And that hurts, man. That hurts. Because, that guy's my brother. And producer Beggsy, he's not the man. I'm great at talking hockey. Maybe, you can let me know otherwise. I love talking hockey, we'll put it that way. But the producer side of things, it's not my jam. Even that little drop there with the funky little music. If you're on YouTube, pictures of the Canucks. Looks like an episode of SpongeBob SquarePants featuring the Vancouver Canucks. It's all made by Kyle, man. The beautiful mind of Kyle Bowen. Okay. Going to close out the show here and shout out to Cam Neely, former Canuck of the week. And for this week, for me, it's Bo Horvat. Look, Bo Horvat is all of a sudden putting up a pretty monster season for the Vancouver Canucks, okay? Bo Horvat has 30 points in 29 games. He's on a point streak right now, but last week he had 3 goals and 6 points in 4 games. Look, the Islanders are winning games lately. I know they've lost their last 2, but they've gone on a winning streak. They're back making some noise here in a very, very interesting Metropolitan Division. But you know what, Bo Horvat? Have fun with your mediocre New York Islanders, okay? Have fun. Good riddance. Because guess what? The Canucks made the right call, picking JT Miller over Bo Horvat. And let's hope the Canucks make some right calls tonight. Again, I'm not sure about this Kuzmenko benching. But the Canucks do play the Nashville Predators tonight. And I do like the Canucks to win. Nashville has been on a bit of a run lately. Jussi Saros is always a tough goaltender to face. He started slow, but he's looked hot lately. But this Nashville team, talk about being mired in mediocrity. I know Nashville had that run to the Stanley Cup Finals now 6 years ago in 2017. And they have yet to bottom out. They've always kind of been in the picture. But Nashville, much like the Islanders, are a team mired in mediocrity. It's a place that I'm so glad the Canucks seem to be out of. Again, they're second overall in the NHL, right? They've been one of the best teams in the NHL this season. I don't want to hear the word lucky about my Vancouver Canucks. Because they play some damn good hockey. And I think they're going to play pretty well against Nashville tonight. Casey DeSmith has been rolling lately. Actually, now has a better save percentage than Thatcher Demko at a .923. The Canucks play Nashville on Halloween night. I missed the first period of that one. I was too busy dressing as a character from Paw Patrol. Halloween hits different when you're a parent. No shots at the bar anymore. Dressing up as a freaking character from a kid's show is unbelievable. But again, I do like the Canucks to pick up the 2 points tonight. I think they'll do that. Again, Nils Höglander seems to play well against the Nashville Predators. Put him up for a goal, and Casey DeSmith shutting the door, and a 3-2 Canucks victory. That's it for this episode of Locked On Canucks. Again, one love to Kyle Bowen. Feel better soon, buddy. Shout out to the listeners, whether you're an everydayer, an occasional listener, a first-time listener, or a new subscriber. We love each and every one of you, your family, and your dogs too. Coming up this week, I'm sure Kyle Bowen will be back on the show. Hopefully he's feeling better because me and Kyle are hoping to record live in person on Thursday night. Maybe get a couple bonus episodes out for the week of Christmas. Again, an early happy holidays to you and your loved ones. But guess what? We'll see you tomorrow here on Locked On Canucks.
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.